You smile, I want you smile. I love you smile, I love you smile. Why don't you smile? We've been thinking about some positive changes. We need some positive changes. Thinking about some positive.
And now today's host, Imam Ezekiel Pasha.
Assalamu alaikum, dear listening audience, and welcome to the Thinker broadcast. And we're live as always at our historic Masjid Malcolm Shabazz, and we're here with our resident Imam, Imam Ezekiel Mui Pasha, and Sister Marsha. As always, we're getting the benefit of our Imam thinking, and he addresses issues and engages in questions asked by myself and Sister Marsha, and let us know a fresh perspective as to how to take a look at these things. So without further ado, Assalamu alaikum, Brother Imam.
Wa alaikum assalam, Brother Philip and Sister Marsha. Praise be to God. We witness that God is one, having no associate or partner. He is God alone. And we witness to the beloved Prophet Muhammad, the prayers and the peace be upon him. He is Allah's servant and messenger and a mercy to all of humanity and all that will follow of that traditional salute to our Prophet. Again, we're glad to join you on the Thinker Radio Magazine, or now tying into, well, they changed the name from the Face the Book, but whatever the name is, we're there, and I think it's on You in the Tube too, or something like that. So, God willing, our intent is to, in addressing those things that would be asked of me, to the best of our abilities, to give good and nothing but good. So God willing, inshallah, Brother Philip, the master screen you got in front of me is off. So maybe you make those adjustments. And I turn it over to Sister Pasha.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Imam.
Wa alaikum assalam, Sister Marsha.
The first question I have, Brother Imam, what are your thoughts regarding the situation with Russia and Ukraine?
Well, over the centuries of mankind entering this wonderful sphere, this spaceship Earth, that Almighty God allow us to occupy, there were all of the other creation here before us. And all of that other creation, the mountains, the seas, the oceans, and all of the animals, the birds, the skies, you know, the energy, the suns, you know, all of these stars, all these things was here long before mankind was given the permission to enter into the earth and to come as a servant of God to bring the best out of all of the creation. Since that time, when mankind lost his way and engaged in wars with each other, none of those wars have ever produced peace, a sustaining peace, I should say. None of those wars, you can go back as far as you want. War has never been the answer. Conversation, dialogue, discussion, which is what the Almighty created us to do. As He said, I created you in your different molds, in your different identities, not that you will see it as something to engage in negative activity with each other, but as something that would allow you to know one another better and to take advantage of the knowledge that each one of you have based on the locations on the earth that I put you, the environment the resources that you have that your neighbor may not have, and etc. So God tells us, I didn't put you here for warmongering. I put you here to maintain the peaceful environment that you found when you came here. All right? And coming out of your mother's womb, like Mother Earth, you came out with a submissive and peaceful disposition. So obviously over the eons of time that man's been here, mankind has chosen to accept another influence, which instead of dialogue to understand or trade, to understand each other's position and needs and wants, man has took up the attitude of I will take it from you, or I will dominate over you. And in all of the scriptures that we have, and certainly our holy book, the Quran, is clear on it, that Almighty God says that mankind was never created to be seek to dominate people, to dominate over people. God created the human family so that we are the only of the creation that has the responsibility of being able to have free will and to make choices. But all of the things that he has given us that surrounds us, everything, I mean all of it, demonstrates to us that the best approach to circumstances that seems to be against your best interests is to approach those who are applying it and see if you can't negotiate something, or at least find out why are you deciding to seek to overthrow me when I'm willing to trade with you, because you have some things I need. I'm willing to talk with you in dialogue and to share and what have you, because this whole earth and everything in it and above it does not belong to me or you. It belongs to the creator of the heavens and the earth, and we are here to his mercy that we have access to it. So this idea of war again, the drumbeat of war in the world is clear that mankind has not learned the lesson yet. Our country has just retreated from a 20-year war in Afghanistan that yielded up nothing but pain and hurt for all those involved, and still yielding it up. So this attitude among so-called leaders, and that says a lot about the people, the masses of people, who particularly in America and democracies like ourselves, where you have the opportunity to choose leadership, you have to, you have to look at this in a way that wars have never solved or brought great value to those engaging in it. All it has done is mainly have young men lose their lives, never had a full life to live, because they are the ones chosen to go and fight these battles and what have you, and come back in caskets and etc. And some don't come back at all, blown in pieces. And women now that they have engaged in, and that's for me, is there's a place for women that God has created. It's a noble and honorable place, and it's not on the battlefield, but you're forcing them to have to take on a position that is not the nature of a woman. But if you're going to attack her family and destroy her homes and etc., then she's left with no choice but to go to the battlefield. So this is something in the time we're in that this must come to a better resolve. They thought, and we thought, that by creating a national or global meeting place called the UN at this time, it was called other names before, but creating that global situation, which I think a lot of credit goes to Miss Eleanor Roosevelt for working on that, and may God be pleased with her, that is the body that should be called upon and used in a very productive way. And that body seems to be usurped, bypassed, and only touch it like you're touching it, but you're not. But when there's conflicts between nations or trouble, then there should be a demand from all nations. If one goes rogue and say, I'm going to do this without what's the name, then all nations just say, no, we refer this to the UN. Let's take this to the UN where all of us are there. And if one is warring against others, it affects the whole global economy. It affects the whole global world. All of us are hurt and in pain by this kind of barbaric behavior and response on what is promoted as civilized societies. So there's much to be said on that, but it's a sad time that in 2022, going into 2023, that we have not learned the lesson that war has never yielded up true peace. Because if it had, you wouldn't keep having wars. But there is a way to have true peace, and that's to respect for the human dignity and worth that God has given every human being on this planet, whether he or she are rich or he or she are poor or in between. The richness of all of us is that we are human. That's the great value. And we should respect that and have great respect for it when we have children under our responsibility, etc. So it's a sad time that we're living in, that, as I said, through all this time and all the wars that we have on the books and history and everything else, that man, who's supposed to be the most intelligent creature on this earth, have shown nothing but ignorance and stupidity, and shows that his use of his intellect and his brain is not working for him. He has allowed some other influence that has elevated his weaker selves, greed, dominance, racism, just hatred to be hating, color consciousness, all of these things that have been nothing but destroy humanity. And after you destroy each other, then you say, oh, let's go back and rebuild it up, like that's supposed to be the solution. Why did you tear it down in the first place? So praise be to God.
I would like to also discuss, Imam Pasha, in regards to President Biden. He will be selecting a nominee to the Supreme Court. And in the news they have had, and I'm sure people have heard about being an African-American woman. And there's been a lot of discussion on why he just have a selection of African-American women, not other nationalities, not other races. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, the process, we know what the process is, but as the president, does he have that right to make the selection of those that he sees fit?
Yes, well, again, praise be to God. If I understand it right and understand the Constitution of our country and all of its surrounding documents, the Declaration of Independence and the amendments and all of these things that have went on to develop our country on a path in language that is supposed to be the main drive for us, and that is a country that was designed to embrace all of humanity, being unique in the world, to embrace all of humanity, because all of us who are here that makes up America, at one point somewhere else we were being oppressed or we were oppressing ourselves, including the Native American, in terms of the history of tribalism, where wars against each other. Africa, we are well aware of all of the wars and what have you, that the tribes of Africa, that even to the day that still happens. In Europe, throughout total Europe, we're aware of all of the wars against each other in terms of as Europeans, everyone's Europeans, what have you. You think of the European Jew, and we need to note especially that Judaism as a religion encompasses, like Al-Islam, is made up of all kind of human beings of all different types. Europeans, African, Asians, Latinos, the Jews who have chosen Judaism as their way of life to live, as their religion, is made up of all kind of people. But here we have a situation to where the obligation on the president that when the Supreme Court, as this is called, has a vacancy, that he has a right to choose someone. And I believe President Biden, in running and looking at the history of our country and those appointing people to the Supreme Court, I believe that he's sincere enough that he's looking for to make sure there's a balance. Because the Supreme Court, when you say Supreme Court, you may not have an idea that is true. What the true idea is those are human beings. And the other factor is that they're appointed for a lifetime. So they're human beings. They have their what do you call it? Their philosophy, their ideologies, and etc. But they have studied the law of the land to represent themselves supposedly based on the dictates of the law of the land, not their personal attitude or favor and so forth and so on. Unfortunately, we know that's not true. Right. And we've seen that in recent times with the former president in terms of outright stating that he was appointing the people he was appointing so that they were had expressed a position on certain topics, and he appointed them there for that purpose, so that those topics would come to the Supreme Court, that they would be influenced by their feelings or the non-objectivity to these things, and then therefore would vote to eliminate certain things. That's not justice, and that's not applying the rule of law. So by him asking and saying that he wanted to appoint a justice who was qualified, and if it's, I have to say this, if it's an African-American woman, then based on America and the history we have here, the fact of the matter is she's going to be 50 times more qualified than any justice sitting up there, because that would be required of her to even make those kind of, get those positions to be a judge at all. That's just a fact of the matter that as African Americans in America, because of the long-standing oppressive things that had been clocked into laws have been made to oppress us. Right. You know, they're unjust laws, but nevertheless, because we were in minority, and we fought back, and many great men and women fought back and still fighting back, but at the same time, he has a right to do so. And as a matter of fact, President Barack Hussein Obama had the right to do so, and because of those attitudes of the Senate at that time, who had majority, told him straightforward that we're not going to move anything forward on any nominee that you would put forward. Why? Because the nominee you would put forward will not accept our ideology of how to apply the laws in our favor. So they wouldn't even allow the person to be heard. And he was appointing a man who now I think is over the State Department, I believe he is. Judge Garland, I think his name is, if I recall right, over the Justice Department, over the Justice Department. But the fact of the matter, the idea that the president has the ability to do so, the Senate, and who seems to have a final say in terms of voting up or down a person, in my opinion, should not have that authority. It should be put to the people of America to evaluate it, and when we have these presidential elections, that we should be electing the judges ourselves. Now, does that mean that let the president put somebody forward, but also let it go to the people to evaluate who these judges are, particularly when you want to have them as a lifetime judge? That, I think, too, was an experiment, and it was the idea behind it that their lifetime appointment, they couldn't be fired or voted out. Therefore, they can have the freedom to go against the ideas that somebody put them there for. They can say, no, I'm here, and you can't fire me, so therefore I can make a better decision than I did before, kind of thing. So there is a dilemma to look at this very seriously, but I'm glad to hear that he is doing that, because I think, one, the qualifications of whomever, among the many, which is another blessing, the many African American women that are qualified to sit on that high court, that he will be successful, and with a narrow margin at the Senate, hopefully we'll be able to get it through, rather than the overthrow of the authority that the previous Senate did with granting President Trump anybody he want, rushed them through, didn't care last minute, so that nobody would, the new president would even, President Biden coming in, wouldn't even have a chance. So just rushed three people right through, all right, and denied President Obama anybody, except for one, I said Sotomayor, I think was one, but other than that, you know, they just told him point blank. And like I said again, that is something that needs to not settle, but I don't know whom would do it from a legal perspective, but Mitch McConnell, representing the Republican Party in that Senate, and what he did under Barack Hussein Obama, he should be charged with treason. He should be charged with that, but they have to charge the whole party. But he was the leader of that party, and he should be charged with treason, because he made the statement from day one, when President Obama was elected by the majority of the people, that his Senate, since they controlled it, would not allow anything he put forth, even if it was a plan of their own. This was said. That's the only way I know about it. It was said. If that's not treason, if that's not something that he should be brought on charges for, sanction or something, should have been done back then. But there's nothing to stop it from being done now, because that is the same attitude. And we can't have that in a fair and open society for electing public officials and what have you. So I hope that that he will have the right person, and that she will become a Supreme Court judge and add another dimension to what I'm speaking of, to making sure that all those laws, all of them, that were put into law with the objective of holding back a minority people, ourselves as African Americans and others, to hold back and to hand out more punishment and etc. to us. I hope that they will address that and look at the laws and say these laws need to be struck down, because the very foundation in which they were created on was to oppress and hold people where they could not make progress. Those laws, and if you can't start with the Supreme Court, you can start with your local state, New York, others, that there needs to be an organization to step up. And I know there's a lot of qualified people to address this, the root of how and why that law was put in place. What was the background behind it? What made you put this kind of law in the book and make it legal to carry it out? You made oppressing of people legal to carry it out, based on a race, based on holding them down into a oppressive position. This is where we need to be looking at, in my opinion. So I hope the president's successful in what he's doing, and hopefully he'll be able to appoint some more folks before his second term is up.
Brother man, could you just comment this whole issue with race? In 2022, you would think, that so much history, so much time has gone past where it wouldn't play so big in the public sphere. But for example, there was these are coming from very respected politicians where they're criticizing something where they said some states made decisions where, like, with the COVID treatment, they had scarce COVID treatment, and they said, okay, we're going to prioritize those who we need, who need it more, who are probably suffering more from the COVID virus, and that just happens to be the blacks and the Hispanics and so on. And then there's some Republicans that say, hey, that's racist because we deny some white people treatment. Now, that's one thing, but if we look a couple
let me stop you there for a minute. I'll let you finish it, but so I can address just that one part there. You are a registered nurse, and if Sister Marsha comes into the hospital with a broken hand or broken elbow, and I come in there and I got 5 gunshot wounds. Who you gonna take first?
Of course.
So I mean that's not the argument that you're saying these folks are making and claiming it as racism. You take the emergency room, takes the most crucial emergency first before it addresses the others. So if among a group of people who happen to be Latino or happen to be African Americans or happen to be Polish, Irish, whatever it is, German, you think of it. If Russian, whatever it is, if that's where the thing is the most detriment, that has more of a chance to spread and etc., well then logic dictates that you just need to go there, because potentially going there you might be able to contain it where it doesn't reach others. So the idea of someone right away claiming something is what they call it, reverse racism or something, is ridiculous based on COVID and the reasoning, like an emergency. Her arm is hurting, she's in pain, her hand is broken, and etc. But I'm sitting there with 5 gunshot wounds or having a heart attack or whatever it is. Logically, the hand, okay, we'll get to that. I'm saying give us something right now, but right now we have to deal with this person here because it's a life-death situation. That's not. So go ahead.
And that makes perfect sense, and that's logical.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of intelligent discussion would be very much appreciated. But what we see happening is they make this public, and it goes to the other extreme. At this point, I'm only speculating, but I'm pretty sure that it has to, that statement, that thing becoming public, had something to do with the African American schools. Almost every one of them, like the historic HSBCs, getting bomb threats from. I don't see from outsiders saying like, hey, So it's like, okay, you do this to us, we do that to you. That's how I see it. And I know knowing some of American history, that's how it tends to something like this.
Well, it's Jamaican history too, I can tell you that. And every other island you can think of, including Africa and European history too, and Asian history and etc. I say this: the wicked mind, the mind that is so fearful of everybody else that it will do anything. It's fear that drives people, and you got those who are fear mongers. And through the advancement of technology, they can push their fear out there faster, and they can decorate it up to make it seem so real. It's like, for example, and a few times it was caught. As a matter of fact, in recent time, I've been hearing the president or the United States talking about it in terms of trying to charge Russia and saying they're going to create some kind of video or some kind of tape or something of fake like there's attack, and they're going to make it like a movie set and what have you, and make it look like something's happened so they can go on and start the war. Well, that's not far-fetched, because that was done with Afghanistan, that was done in Vietnam, that was done in several places, that when they had nothing else to show drama and to make fear in people and get people to go along with attacking, we need to do this now, that they had Hollywood sets made up to make it look like news, so-called quote-unquote news reporters, etc. So they could film, say, hey, do this, but it was all Hollywood set and they got busted. So those who are desperate to keep man against man, meaning mankind, to keep us against one another, they have access also to promote. But the key, at least as I understand it, particularly among the faith communities, those of us who subscribe to the belief in the oneness of God, and we may have many ways that we understand that. We know Judaism and Christianity and Islam are the three faiths that have similarities more than differences, but we all accept that there's an authority bigger than ourselves. But also Buddhism and others and other forms of people's faith tradition still have that. And this is a time where I think we, as people of faith, must take a more active and crucial role, and while we're doing it, must make sure we guard against infiltrators who will come in and be among us, and we can easily spot them because all you got to do is stay with the core principles of Islam, the core principles of Christianity, and the core principles of Judaism, and you will know anyone who's coming to the table and putting something else on the table that your core principles say, wait a minute, what you want to do? What you want to just bomb everybody? Well, that's not Islam. We don't not even bomb innocent people. Nobody else. In fact, we don't want to hurt no trees. We don't want to go in and kill the tree that takes 100 years to grow, olives and figs, etc. We don't none of that. We can't do that. And if anything we're going to do, if we have to defend ourselves, and that's the position we want to be in, always in a position to defend against these things. And I think that these traditions and others, we really need to have our UN, our united people of faith come together and start to take a position to bring peace into this world, because all of those faith traditions are the core principle is about being the peacemaker and maintaining the peace and etc. So this devil, this wicked mind that has gotten access to communications, mass communications, that all at one time can reach out across the world and set out a influence. And if people are not well informed, if people are not educated and etc., and are subject and gullible to these influences, then you have masses of people believing that the COVID didn't exist, and my personal space, and so forth and so on, understanding that we all live on the same planet together. What personal space are you talking about? Your personal space is when you're going home. That nobody has no business knocking on your private doors. But once you step out to the public, we are all accountable to each other. And this is why in our religion, and in the other religions too, but when our religion is strong, that our prophet, the prayers and peace upon him, said, Muhammad, that God pressed upon him about his neighbor, the person next door to you, the person neighbor in your block, your neighbor, the one who you see and pass by every day, pressed upon him so strong about the care for the neighbor that he thought the neighbor would be the inheritor of what he was doing. That's God saying to us that in the public realm, when you come outside of your private quarters, which no one has the right to violate that, but when you come outside, you're part of a global picture, and you must show respect for your neighbor, and get to know your neighbor, and etc. We have lost that, though it seems like it's still there, but that's a big loss. The neighborly needs. You know, I came this morning to the masjid, and it happens to me all the time. You know, they know it's me, I guess. And it's 4 in the morning. I figure nobody will be out here, but in New York City, they're out here. And a young man, you know, before I can get out the car and move the cones and what have you, he came over and said, "Oh, sir, you know, listen, I don't need to harm anything." His eye was all bloody red looking and everything, and he looked like he'd been out in the street for a long time. But he was a young man, right? But he looked unhealthy and etc. And said, "Well, can you spare at least a quarter?" Someday I said, "I can spare more than a quarter if you want to do a little work." He said, "Yes, sir, I'll work what it is." He said, "So you want to move these cones?" I'd already moved them, but no problem. You can move them again when I move the car, and then you can put them back. And then I said to him, I said, "You know, you see all this trash around here in front of the building? I'm gonna give you this broom and this thing here. Do me a favor. If you just sweep that up for me, it'll be more than a quarter that I will give you." And so he said, "Yes, sir, yes, sir." Right away. So here, you know, behind all this worn outness and on the street and etc., there's a great human being here that just has lost his way for whatever the reasons are. And then the unique thing that happened, as he was sweeping and I came back out to see what he was doing, a homeless young lady, she couldn't been in between her 20s and maybe got to 30. She was asking him for something, you know, and she was saying, "I just need this for that." And I heard her saying it to him, and I'm looking, And he said, well, I ain't got much. But he went in his pocket and took out a quarter he had and gave it to him. Almost sent me to tears. I had to step back inside. I couldn't. I said, what does this? Look at this. So he just about took all my money because I'm doing yours, but you did a great to me. You asked me for a quarter. And here this young lady comes up and she's hungry and she's out of it. You can, again, the young lady on the street here, this is Harlem. And he gave her his quarter. So he finished doing what he's doing, and he was still, I said, listen, man, all I can tell you, whatever I'm giving you, you just earned it. You earned more than what I can give you. However, God can give you everything you need to get back on your feet if you just trust in your great human worth. And I gave him what I gave him. You can say what I gave him, but I gave him, more than a quarter, and what have you, for what he did. But just that kind of understanding in terms of, I think, in my opinion, the fault lies in terms of all of these things, the extremes that are going on, the mounting and the drumbeat of extremes of passions for things. You say, you can just like something, but no, I have extreme passion for it to the point where it drives me out of my mind. It has me leave my family. It has me disrespect my basic human life and others and such. It has me curse out my mother and my father and such and what have you. That's it. Right now today it's in the hands of those who claim that they are people of faith and believe in God Almighty. Believe in that reality. And the time we're living in now really requires us, not the hustling preachers, not the hustling preachers that we know about, not the hustling imams that we know about, and a lot of them too, or the hustling rabbis, for that matter, because we all have been infiltrated, and what have you. If that wasn't true, then why we got the situation we got in Israel? What's happening in Israel there is not of the Judaic faith and what have you, what God has put forth in the Torah, in the Old Testament, New Testament, Injil, what have you. That's not that behavior. So whose behavior is that? That you slaughtering another people and at the same time you're using your oppression that was done to the European Jews. And you have to say that way because I said Jews are of every nationality. It's not just Jews, they're just Europeans. This horror that happened there in Europe with Europeans slaughtering Europeans, what have you, but was slaughtering them because they had the religion of Judaism and used their mandates, their dictates as practicing Judaism against them and what have you. And this brought me to this thing with the sister on one of these TV programs, and they made a big thing out of Goldberg, yeah. I mean, and she was just having a conversation, and they took a conversation out of context. In terms of, was the oppression of these people because of their race, or was it because of their religion? It was because of their religion, where they lived their life and etc. Couldn't be because of their race. Why? Because they're all Europeans. They're all Europeans. So it was because, even with ourselves as Africans, in Africa, how we wound up in the shores, it was all Africans. It was because of our tribal beliefs or our religious beliefs and etc. And the one who won sold us out. So you couldn't say the race was it. It was something about what you believed in and what you practiced that caused the others to see you making progress and envy and jealousy because you stuck to a code of faith in God, Judaism, etc., and certain restricted things you wouldn't do, so forth and so on, what have you, or Islam, or Christianity, etc. So it wasn't based on the race, more as it was on the ideology of Judaism and how you were operating that made them become envy and jealousy of your progress. The same for Islam. And we make progress because we accept Islam as our religion. And my religion bounds me to an ethical life, bonds me to a fair life, bonds me to a life to pursue peace, bonds me to respect human life and the decision makers that people make and what have you, religion or otherwise. So to me, when I heard this, I'm saying, who is manipulating this? Who is making this into something that the lady just simply said, Miss Goldberg, just simply said, like we hear now, I'm having a conversation. And we have a conversation to discuss. Well, you can come back at me and say, well, no, ma'am, I think such and such. I think it was race, and I think it was what's name. Then to single her out like some kind of taboo because, what, I can't discuss Judaism? I can't discuss the murder and slaughter of the people, what they call the Holocaust? What do you mean? I can't discuss that? And what have you? And what that's prohibited for me to talk about? Anybody will prohibit me from having my say, my opinion on what I saw and what happened and the horrors that happened there and what have you is the problem. They're the problem. If you're going to push this so far on everybody and everybody got to know about it, etc., well then, God damn it, I got a right to talk about it. Don't tell me you're going to shove it down my throat. No, that happened. And it only happened there, it happened long before there. To all kind of people. I mean, you want to go back, you can go back into Musa time, Moses time, and the whole Jewish folks over there in Africa. That's Africa now. That was Africa. Egypt is Africa. All right? They weren't Europeans. They were African. You want to argue with that too? They were Africans. As I said, Judaism and those who accept that faith and that tradition, that great faith and tradition, people who made a lot of progress. And you didn't accept it. You savagery and everything else, and they get mad at them because they're making the progress because they hold to a sacred tradition. So it is for Islam, so it is for Christianity. So we can't have in this time, that's Satan when he won't allow you to have a discussion and what have you. And here, what are you doing? You're highlighting one group over the other. God didn't have it that way. Ain't no one group or other. We're all human beings, and there's not a human being that ever walked on this earth that did not do wrong or commit sin. None. Zero. Period. The perfect human being is the one who makes mistakes, sins, and then works hard to correct it. And I got to say at this point, praise be to God. You know, so this is just the time out for that kind of stuff. You know, you want to make your pain and your suffering greater than everybody else's. Listen, pain and suffering, we all went through. You know, and we want to make sure that none of us experience what you call the Holocaust. If that word means what happens to the European Jews and what's name put in camps and burnt and starved and took the business and everything away from them, well then I must be Jewish. I think I am a little bit here and there. I mean, I should live so long to know about these things. I don't know. Was it best name? Did he help me? You know what I mean? You know, because, you know, that happened to us.
That's right.
That happened to us. That happened to us. So, I mean, so, you know, no, don't allow Satan to step in here and separate us based on these things and put one hurt against the other. One human being is what it said in the scriptures. If you hurt one human being, you take one innocent life, it is as though you have taken the life of all human beings. Let's stay there. One hurt happens one. If you're going to talk about Holocaust, you're going to talk about the hurt and pain there, then connect it to the ones that happened before the Holocaust. That's why that happened, because you didn't stop it back then. No one stood up to make sure that this shouldn't happen no more, like the wars you asked me about from the beginning. Yeah. And I said enough on it. Thank you very much.
Brother Imam, you said so much. So
I
want to move to our
God.
progress there in Inkster, from you just telling the story about the young man and making progress. And I'm just thinking about what you said, what he did after it was your influence that influenced him to help the sister. I mean, that's just such a beautiful thing.
It is, yeah. That needs to be on film. That needs to be on a strip.
Yes.
He's down and what have you, but his sister came to him. He asked me for a quarter. And he was saying, I don't mean harm. He came to me in such a humble way. And what happened, he was with a group. The group was standing over there when I pulled up. And he came and I don't mean no harm, what have you. You know me, and I'm always on God, no problem. But, you know, I'm with God. So, yes, sir, I can help you. What's the problem, you know? Oh, I just need a quarter. If you can just help me with a quarter. I said, I can help you more than that. Come here and help me out. You know, the fair exchange, come help me. You know, and then like I said, when I came back to the door and seen her coming at him and pleading with him to give, can you give me something here, a dime or something? And he reached in his pocket and said, well, here, I only got this, I ain't got no. She asked for more, he said, all I got is this. Man, boy, I had some, man, when I came in the building, I went upstairs and fell down and sat you. I fell down in prayer. Man, I said, I'm hard to talk about these things. Anyway,
But
go
that's
ahead.
what I'm talking about, making a progress, and you're talking about helping your neighbors. That's just a prime example.
Praise be to God.
The community, as you're building in Inkster and you're doing here in New York, that's what we're talking about. And then with the family skating rink, the family
Well,
reunion.
praise be to God. Yeah. And then we have the Inkster Family Skating Rink, which for those of you who are tuning in, you can go to www.inksterfamilyskatingrink.com. and you will see our website there. We're now, we're fully going to full opening in this month of February, a month that celebrates the great history and worth of the contributions of the African American, but Africans all over the world here in our country, America. You can go there, and it's now open. And the way I designed it, it had something to do with COVID at first, but as a non-for-profit organization, which we are, and running most of our operations are under the 501c3 status. I thought of, with the COVID and not allowing big gatherings and these things that the stages it went through, it stuck with me in terms of two things. As our non-for-profit status, and one of our mandate is to help revitalize communities in every aspect, education, business, all of the basic situations that are necessary for homes, having a home life, and etc. And when I thought about the design for that skating rink over the 7 years we fought to open it up, finally got good political leadership that stuck with us and helped us do a preliminary opening with the Honorable Mayor Patrick Wimley. With his help and a few of the council member people there in Inkster who we helped support get into office, I came up with an idea of opening the skating ring to groups, organizations, rather than simply walk-in. And the reasons for that is because you all are aware of it, the people we're talking to and you all, that the skating rinks sometimes gets a bad rap for 2 or 3 people coming in, creating problems and etc., maybe shootings, all kind of things. And whenever it happens, particularly in the African American community, as I said, the unjust laws that have been put into place to demonize us goes into effect, and the media falls with it, so that anytime that happens, then it's the black community, it's Western community, like that's supposed to be expected, that they have a skating rink and you need to shut it down because they're fighting and so forth and so on. So I had to consider all of that on how we're going to do this and make an attempt to try to have something that will represent decency, represent peace, and a safe haven for families to come and enjoy themselves. So I organized it based on groups, organizations, clubs, and etc., respectable clubs and what have you that we could talk with, and would cut out time and spaces for them to be able to utilize it as a group. And a flat kind of rate that we deal with, we'd use a 2.5 hour slot. And in that 2.5 hours, there's just a flat rate if you want to use that for the 2.5 hours, and then a small $3 fee for renting skates. And quite naturally, you're not able to bring any food or anything in that into the ring, because that will be the area that will help us offset our overhead, our debt, and what have you. Because say for 2.5 hours, $300 for 2.5 hours. And now you got an organization, you got Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, you got private clubs, you have skating clubs, you have churches and other organizations who would like a safe haven space to be able to come. Family, big family, large families. As a matter of fact, the last one we had there, I think it was about 75 family members came to the skating rink and what have you. And this way, you know who's always there. You all belong to the same organization and group. And we will be contacting and dealing with the person who's going to be responsible for you. So if anything were to transpire, we have someone to go to. And they'll say, listen, this thing that this person's doing over here, they can't do it. They'll go and check and make sure it happens. So we hope that that would quell it down. Also, you're dealing with folks that you know, which means in terms of the COVID, which thank God it seems to be coming not as strong as it was for 1.5 years or so, that you all know each other. You all deal with each other all the time. So you're willing to protect each other. If it's necessary to wear a mask, you're wearing a mask, which we require. at the place, etc. Require masks to be worn as long as you're off the floor. If you're on the floor skating, then no, you don't have to have the mask on. So this kind of thing. And what I did, I said with this now, you can have 100 members. And you can then charge them so much per person and have fundraisers. So we've been in contact with the police department out there has contacted us, a bunch of the police department together. The fire department has contacted us to have time for them and their families to come. So, and the list, our time is just being filled up and what have you. But we're able to merge these different groups into the skating ring at the same time to enjoy themselves. So this was a great effort out of our leadership of Imam W.D. Muhammad, you know, which following in the tradition of his father and mother in terms of building something of dignity for yourself. So we've done that. And when we have the list of these different organizations that we will utilize the skating ring, that we will be eventually posting up on our webpage and everything, so that, say it's a family of 5 or 6 people. Well, you can go to that list and join one of them. So now we're helping them get members.
Right.
You know, we got the Chamber of Commerce out there that we're a member now of. The same thing, pulling them all together, because the Chamber of Commerce is, I went to one meeting and it was in that southern part of Michigan. It was so many Chamber of Commerces that met. So in this case, Chamber of Commerce, y'all can have our Chamber of Commerce of Inkster. We can have a skating party and what have you, invite them in, and now raise money because we sell the ticket for whatever, what have you, and we only paying a flat rate of the $300, but we got 100 people up in there, you know, and we charge it $12, $15, $60, whatever they want to do for a fundraiser. So this idea is caught on, and the people love it and appreciate it and what have you. So we're not doing anything to turn away the individual from coming. You can't come directly like that, but you can. You call and say, well, just me, my son does. Well, no, we don't have it, just walk in. You have to register and what have you. And here's some of the groups that you can get with, youth groups and what have you. Matter of fact, one of the youth groups right now is already scheduling, and they want to cut out a time slot that every month, once a month, that they can have that time slot. So praise be to God. You know, it's 7 years of struggle there in that town of trying to just bring what we bring, decency and straightforwardness and what have you. There's no form of any smoke or any type allowed on our parking lot, period. All right? And once it's over with, you get off the parking lot, because in a half hour so the next group will be coming in. And then we use also bands that we give once the person registered and say, I got 150 people. So as they come there, after they pay online, we got all the technology and etc. And when they come, we have bands for that group for that 2.5 hours. So that group gets a blue van, a band. So it's 150 people, they get the blue van. And we wind up and it's 158, we're all up here. Then you got to find that 8 got to pay a flat rate and what have you. So it's a wonderful thing, and we're kicking it off, and we got people lined up already. And this month here, we should have several visits. And like I said, I don't spend no time on that, but you can go to our webpage, the www.inksterfamilyskating.com. If you're in that area or you travel in that area, you can go there and be able to see the timeline and when we open and so on. So praise be to God. Mm-hmm.
Could you just talk a little bit about the importance of guidance, guidance in general? Because, for example, we're just coming out of this COVID pandemic and everything else seems to be opened back up. But without guidance, we should see that a lot of crime is coming out, a lot of distasteful stuff. You see, just like even you can tell on the TV, gambling now, they're promoting gambling on like at a level that it wasn't seen before. It's just like, okay, go out and do whatever you want. Could you just hint at the importance of guidance and kind of guide you from some of these major, I consider major pitfalls, especially if you're coming out of a sensitive time, you know, nothing really, it's not guaranteed that everything's going to go back to what it was. It's not always not a time to be reckless.
Right. Well, praise be to God. You're right. You're absolutely right. And I would say that our new mayor, Eric Adams, He's got a big job ahead of him, and we're looking to help him in every way that we can. We're in contact with his office all the time to look at these things. And you're right. People have been locked down, and when the lockdown was thing, it seemed like crime was down across the country, not just in New York. It was down because people were afraid and feared, and nobody wanted to deal with nobody in terms of that, and more locked down. But the more we loosen up, then it seemed like crime picked up and what have you. And it seems the institutions well, from the faith traditions, the institutions of Satan, and one of them is gambling, the risk taking situation to give away your whole paycheck and what have you, and that your family be necking out of doors and can't pay your rent, your bills, and everything else. And then afterwards, after they run all the gambling advertisement, at the end they put a small one and tell you about come join Gambling Anonymous to recover from it. I mean, that just didn't make no sense. I mean, I seen that. I'm like, the marketing of the gambling is so enticing and so designed to enter your human spirit and what have you, because it's such joy going to be involved here. I'm gonna have joy and I'm gonna have happiness and etc. Giving you my money and what have you, and then tell you, well, no, what you're gonna do? You give us your money. You give us and lose 5,000. And we'll give you back 500. You know, I mean, it's theological stuff. And then after putting all this promotion of everywhere, and then government falling into the trap from the time of quote unquote the starting of lottery, and before the lottery, the gambling casinos as part of a vacation thing to go do when it wasn't legal in America and different places and etc. And then the whole was it Las Vegas, Sin City. I mean, they call it that, you know, Sin City, you know, New Orleans, Sin City. I mean, so there's Satan or the devil will say, you know, they blame me. I told you what I was inviting you to, Sin City. You know, they make movies and weekly weekly TV programs on Sin City and all these things. So it's a massive piece to play on the misery of people. Where the masses of people are working day to day and not able to earn enough money to really have life and have life expand. The retarding of the growth of what would be from one level to the next level have been stagnated, and they call it different names. You know, they'll say middle class and upper class. You know, they give all these classifications, low class. You know, they give all these classifications. And how can you give that? Because you know that's what you are strategizing, to hold people in certain classes. You have put things in place to say this group, we're going to let them out of there because they'll need these things to do it, and we're going to make sure they don't get it. So here you got all this flowery language of democracy and fairness and justice and etc. But when you ain't got to turn one little page, just peek a little bit, and you'll see all of the contradiction to all of that that's being stated and what have you. So we're in this time. And that's why I said, for all of the answers of this thing, it is the faith tradition, it's the faith, people of faith have to stand up and come to the aid of the people. And that's what prophets represented it. Prophets represented it not so much individual as they were a type that had to come into society to stop it from losing its mind. So every prophet, if we could get the value of Christ Jesus, peace be upon him, and Musa and Moses, peace be upon him, and Abraham, and Daniel, and Lot, and all of them, and quite naturally Muhammad, the prophet, the prophet, if we get the best of them, we got to understand they were a type of thinking that had to be injected into a poison circumstance in order to bring the people back to their humanity. So that's where prophecy coming from. That's where scriptures came in at. They say, hold it, you have gone too far. You have lost all identity as human beings. You look like barbaric people, that you don't have a brain, that you have not been given the mercy and blessing of free thinking and independence. You are using it, or it's being used against you. And you're responding more to extremes in what is natural you want to go through extreme with it in sexuality. You want the extreme version. You don't want anything normal that has the decency between husband and wife and the greatness of that combination together to bring happiness and productivity, etc. You don't want that no more. You want something that nobody can figure out in terms of that. And the same thing for greed of money and riches and etc. You know, a few dominate it all and then get in that dominant position. And as I said, then make false, unjust laws to make sure that you and I can never reach it. This is the time we're living in. And it was prophesied this time would come, that mankind would fall so low that he cares nothing about his neighbor, his family, or anyone. And they introduced every kind of influence. And that's the key word, that we are living as human beings and we were put into an environment that God designed to influence us. But God said, but I made everything to influence you for your best self, for good, and nothing but good. But you now, having the authority, could take it from its good intent and make it into something else. So around the world, that's why these wars keep coming up and everything else, because you are not respecting the great value of the human being that God created. And when you don't, we fall. So crime is out of the way. Why? Because I can't go and make a decent living. And I want the things that you're promoting to say that everybody should have. Why does the children in our communities, how we've been trapped off through enslavement and before, and even back home in Africa, if you want to call it, or back in Europe, whatever you want to call it that, but here in America, you make movies, you make everything about guns. The whole popular movies there is about gun and crime. Huh? Gun and crime. And risk-taking. And gangsterism, etc. That's the popular situation. And so now, when I was growing up, and Christmas time would come, you want a set of guns. The cowboys. That was the whole thing with the caps and everything. That's what they put in your mind. Influenced you. That's what you have. If you didn't have that, then you weren't happy. So they're manipulators of society. And they manipulate through using technology, etc. now faster than they could do before, to manipulate you into having a diet for something that when you eat it, you get sick. But they made it so popular that you keep eating it. You keep drinking the liquor. You know, it makes you sick. You drink it and what have you, not for medicine purposes. You drink the liquor, but they made it so popular. You got, when you go to the football game and this, they talk about how much beer they're going to sell. How much this they're going to do. How much overeating is going to take place. And again, it's hard to blame Satan or this wicked mind that's doing this, because he's telling you, I'm doing this. And your body is saying, when you go to drinking it and doing it, that you ain't supposed to do me like this. That's what your body's saying. You ain't supposed to do me like this. What are you doing? Like I'm straightening my voice now. You know, trying to explain this stuff. You ain't supposed to do me like this. Just slow down there, Brother Pasha. You know, drink a little water. Thank you very much. I'll take my own advice. I'm an intelligent man. At least I try to be. Yeah, but I mean, there's so much. I can't keep talking on all this because there's so much. But the influences in society today are the influences that is designed to take mankind down. And all mankind got to do is move to Fatiha. That's the book of God, move to Fatiha, where God says, die that you might live. Die to these desires that are coming at you in extreme ways. You don't need to drink. You don't need to have gambling. You don't need to take drugs. You don't need to live in a false situation. Move to Fatiha. Take the strength and grab your life back. Die from that life that is no existence at all. It's not life at all. Die from that. Habits. Die from that. Even obesity and all these things here. Everything is geared into take your life and make it short for profit. Profit. And when they call it profit, they're really what Satan does, I just said about the prophets. But they said, no, we don't want the prophets, we want the prophet. Yeah, I mean, that's what's going on. We don't want the prophet. You be Brother Pasha talking that stuff there. We don't want to hear that. That's the prophets talking. We want the prophets. And we want all the prophets. And we don't care who suffers from it. Because we want our group to have the control over everything. So crime and all these things are happening because we don't have a fair economy that gives men and women, young and otherwise, a chance to go out and earn a living and take care of family life and etc. And we pump them up to want to have the guns and all these things are part of society, and we should have it. And like I said, when you go and you look at the separate like this, when you look at the European family who has a chance with their children to be out in the country and they grow up going hunting, so they know how to use the rifle and everything, and they work on farms and they do different things of different nature, and then they're promoting you to have a car and what have you, so their family can afford the car and they can get it and what have you, so it's routine. But here you are, got nowhere to go hunting or do anything like that, got no car and etc. So, but they promoting that that's popular. What you gonna do at 14, 12, maybe even younger than that? You gonna steal one because they took advantage of your youthfulness of non-experience and not having an environment to help you make a better decision, which should be an education and etc. And put desires in you that you don't even know is put in you until you go out and go to take somebody's car. What they call it, hijacking it now, or carjacking, or something they call it, or what have you, with no regard. And then if you ask that person after when you caught him, he can't explain why he even did it. You know you're gonna be able to go far with it. I mean, why would you do it? You had someone in Michigan when I was out there, young lady seen the car running by a post. They just jumped and took it. Jumped in the car, took it. They didn't plan it. The car was running. They went in the store, the gas station, and they took off with the car. But then they turned around, they woke the brain up. The girl brought it back, and it's parked it back there. And they busted her when he brought it back. So what did you do? So I just want to ride it, drive it. This is the kind of influences that are out there, that we, the sober-minded people, the serious-minded people, the people of faith, we are not stepping up as we should. We should be leading the return back to the respect for the great human values, humanity, and save our country and save the world as a real model for what we say we are. We're in a very crucial time of real decision making, and al-Islam proper, because there are those who put the picture of al-Islam and has nothing to do with al-Islam whatsoever, nor did the Prophet ever sanction some of the things that they do. And we have to address them too. And say, man, you call yourself Muslim, but everything about you is haram. Everything about you is wrong. You can't find your behavior, your attitude, your whole disposition in the religion. You're willing to sell people harmful things. You're willing to sell them tobaccos and things there. You're willing to sell them drugs and all these things here for the sake of money, and say, well, they want it, but where you go and live at and take the money back to, you won't even allow that in there. How's that Islam? You want for your brother and sister what you want for yourself. So alhamdulillah, hopefully I'm addressing some of this, but you all got me going for a minute here. Mm-hmm.
I want to speak in regards to our Claire Muhammad School banquet this Thursday.
Yes. Yes, signs behind me there, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. First, I want to say that those listening, you can go to our Majma Shabazz Facebook page. There you will find a link to register and also view the auction items that we have for the banquet, and also to the Majma Shabazz website, the majmashabazz.com website. You can go there also to our Claire Muhammad School page to register, to purchase the $125 only ticket, the fundraiser we have once a year, and also to view the auction items.
Alhamdulillah.
Ma'am, this Thursday, again, we'll be having a school banquet. Would you please, as you express the importance that you've been speaking about our children.
Yes, we've got to give a better, like I said, everything in society, everything in this earth, I should say, in the earth and outside the earth, according to our book, Revelation, our holy book, the Quran, given to the Prophet, that God says that there are signs everywhere in the creation, and there are signs in you. ayat, is a word, signs. And that tells me that everything from the time you come in is looking to influence you. This is what we are dealing with today, influence. And everything is looking to influence you, and you have to make the choices of what you're going to accept as an influence. And as parents, we trust our mothers and fathers as God has given them to us as guardians and sacred folks that that help us when we couldn't help ourselves. And they hope that when you grow up to where you can make your own independent decisions, that you remember the influences that they offer to you. Because parents are also working to influence you as their children for the best of what they believe will give you a good life. But everything in society, everything in this world is talking to you and looking to influence you. But the guidance of parents and family life, the sacredness of family life, that is so valuable, so that when you go and hear and see these other influences calling on you, you can remember the call of the influence of your parents that says, that will not give you the best. That will cause you harm. You can go back and remember that and protect yourself and say, I won't accept that influence. But so many, family life is broken and so many things are attacking it that you lose the connection to the best influences, including even in our religious traditions, in terms of the best of those traditions should be something that you grab a hold of as the yardstick to measure what influence am I going to accept. Everything is trying to influence you. That's how the creation is, and it calls on you to utilize it for its best usage, not for its uses that will lead you down the wrong track. So our Claremont School annual banquet, which I've had the honor and privilege of being chosen and asked by the people to take up the respective position of imam at Masjid Imam Shabazz and the Claremont School for the past going on 29 years now. It seems like just 2 days ago, but alhamdulillah, which also happened to be February 14th, Valentine's Day, 29 years ago, that I was elected by the people. The first time a leader was elected at this historical mosque or masjid here by the people themselves choosing. And I take that as a special honor and a challenge and a toil and a struggle. Because as I said to the people back then, do not ask me to do something that you're not going to help me with, because in no way can I carry the weight or responsibility of the leadership, because the leadership is a collective body. The leadership is an assurer, is a consultative body. It's not an individual, me making decisions, but to seek the help of you in everything that we do. And God has blessed me, I believe, to stay with that and do that, and that has given me a freedom that most folks who seek the position don't have. I didn't ask for the position, and I'm comfortable not being in the position, very comfortable not being in the position actually, but I accept the responsibility. So we're asking you who are tuning in to us, if you cannot be here and join us, I think they still have the virtual situations too, that they can go to the website and come on virtual. But we got the PayPals and all the mechanisms where you can pay the only $125. Man, for 29 years, we only kept it at $125. You know, the average fundraiser, and we only do one, only fundraiser we do at Masjid Imam Shabazz Claremont School is once a year, is this one. So we ask you to give support if you accept our good work and the things we're doing, whomever you may be. If you have good intentions, then we ask you to contribute as much as you can. If you want to contribute $4 or $5 million or $4 or $5 billion, believe me, we know how to use it with respect to it and bringing about good in all of the venues that we're in Virginia, our 130-acre summer camp that needs a great work that we'd like to expand. In Michigan, where we have a beautiful town there that can utilize all the millions we get. We have a 280,000 square feet school there that we've been renovating and raising money slowly to bring some excellent education to the children there who have no schools in Inkster. A couple of charters recently, but no public school system. They all have to be bussed out. Here in Harlem, where we work with our great incubator program that has multiple people in our great historical Harlem market that has built businesses throughout this area and stabilized the area of the mosque with housing, affordable housing, and looking to build more, working with all the political people within our community. So there's much more that we can do, and we look forward to doing that. But the influence is a key. What are you accepting as an influence in your life will tell us about your life, because it will express itself in your thinking and your behavior. So be careful of the influences that you accept, and be mindful of your duty to God, your duty to yourself, your duty to family, your duty to community, your duty to your state, your duty to your nation, God willing, inshallah. So come out to the educational banquet and all the venues, the auctions, items, fundraisers. Please go there and purchase and buy them. And we look forward to a successful this Thursday coming up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this Thursday is from 7 p.m. to 9 to 10. Actually, it closed at 10, but we stop at about 9, I think. Please join us and contribute and help. And we're all 501c3, so there's a tax-exempt potential that you can get there also at the same time. Yeah, Philip.
There's something I'd like you to just comment on, considering this month in February is nationally normally known as like a Black History Month. And at one point, you used to highlight the great thinkers, like some great pioneers, Martin Luther King, and now it seems that there's a trend. It seems that they're moving away from that, and now they're trying to highlight more like artists, and not even respectable artists that know barriers, like contemporary artists, like music artists. Is it just they're putting them at almost like the same status as some of the great thinkers from before? Could you just comment on how you probably see how the focus of like African American history and African American culture has switched over the years, or are it too like more about media and what? Media publicating?
Yeah, we're living in a very strange time in the annals of the history of mankind. This is a strange time. You won't be able to find another time like this. You'll find little spots here, there, and wherever, but we're living in a very strange time for humanity, period, on this earth. Very strange time. In light of the availability of technology to paint pictures that can be as false as they can be, but because they has such creativity with them, make you believe they're all real. I said, make you believe that something is really threatening you and it's not threatening you. Make you afraid of some things that you should be embracing. Attitudes, all of these things. So in terms of, again, I have to say it, and it hurts me to say it, for all of our time here in America, under all the conditions that we've been in and continue to be under, we have not truly, only an inkling here and there in history, have we had the opportunity to actually have communities, in the full sense of the word community, of our own. And if I were to say the Black Wall Street, because it's been established, but there were many, let's talk about Tulsa, Oklahoma, there were many Black Wall Street. Mount Bayou, Mississippi, there was there. After the Civil War and the Reconstruction era, the former enslaved who hungered to read because they were denied reading. They wouldn't, we couldn't, they went to court reading, you can get hung, hurt, killed, and everything else. So there was a desire for what's name. So in the South, is one of the major places where you had a lot of what you mentioned earlier, historical African American universities or black universities grew up right away to get education and what have you. So there was a time period of freedom to get the land and and build and establish towns and etc. And not in prejudicial to the enslavers, who were mostly European in terms of, or white if you want to use the color conscious thing, not indifferent to them, but to our own freedom. And established those business institutions and used our knowledge. Because remember now, it's as the African enslaved people who did a lot of the building and development and science and everything else, creativity, for America to expand as she expanded. The rice industry, the sugar industry. I mean, you think of all these different things and the inventions and inventors that we try to cover in our newspaper, a lot of them. But all of these things that not only affected America's ability to grow, but global growth and global security. The invention of stoplights, the invention of toilets, and all these modern situations, washing machines, all kinds of situations that the being so oppressed for so long kept our mind in a creative mode of wanting freedom. And because we're being oppressed, that creative mind couldn't wait to break out, to establish it. So in a short period of time, you had 1,000 Oklahoma Wall Streets and small towns here, there, and everything else, to the point where the envy and jealousy of us not saying, well, we got our freedom, we don't necessarily want to get with you like that. We want our own. So it was just natural to say we want our own. We don't. You had already tell us we can't read. You already told us your church with Jesus and that church ain't to Jesus for us, and so forth and so on. So we ain't trying to go that way. We had to create our own spirit to keep surviving from all of this oppression that you had put on us, this thing you were doing to us and our children come out the womb and just pressing them and doing like that. So we didn't look to integrate. We didn't look to say we want to separate neither, because we was established in this country. We had paid the price. Therefore, let's establish our farm. Let's establish these towns. Let's do X, Y, and Z. Let's establish the businesses for the services that we know we like to have. All of the things that we wanted in community that you had and wouldn't let us have. So no problem. We can try to go to yours. We want to do this. Then a big mistake was made in recent time with the idea of integration. That killed all of those townships. It killed every one of them. You find only remnants of all of them today. Because instead of saying and building like you were doing, banking with each other, saving with each other, all of these things that was building a revenue basis and et cetera, and what have you. That Tulsa, Oklahoma is historically noted that town was doing so great, yet the town outside across the railroad tracks was doing poor, that some of those quote-unquote European white folks would come to our bank in order to get a loan because they couldn't get it with their own. And then Satan steps in and give us this idea that what you got ain't as good as the next person. That's that ice is colder and things that they give as an example, and made us go after, oh no, we want to integrate. And all that did was make folks mad. And we still kind of got that attitude even to the day. What was wrong with your Howard universities? What was wrong with all of those African Americans universities that was built in oppression because you couldn't go X, Y, and Z, where you had the best sports programs, you had everything you needed to have? What was wrong with that? Who influenced you to put that down and say that that man's ice is colder than yours when you went to the ice house? Now, I've lived around long enough to know about the trucks coming around with the ice blocks and what have you, and what we call an ice box, which we call now refrigerated technology and everything else. But we used to buy the ice, and I remember my mom used to put the ice in the top pot, and that kept the whole thing cold. I mean, I'm a young guy here. I've been around long enough, all right? So I remember this stuff here. So, but that block of ice, like this, and sometimes you would go to the ice place and get it, and all the guy did was took a saw and cut it in half. But there's a white guy over here, I have to use color conscious now for this explanation, and here's the black guy or African American guy here, or the European guy over here, what do you want to call it, and all of you are lining up outside because the voting poll is right next to us. And he took his ice block, and I took my ice block, and I put it on a cart. And I got my ice scraper, and I got some nice Kool-Aids that I had there. You know, nice cup for you and everything. I scraped the ice because the 90-degree weather, and you got to stand in line for voting and what have you. And I'm standing there, your brother, your neighbor, and everything else, and all y'all went over to his ice cart. And I finally asked, what's the influence you to go to his ice cart and not buy anything for mine? And all those on that line said, now you know good and well his ice is colder than yours. After they all witnessed that big block being cut in half and me take one half and a half. That's the downfall of our attitude today. You still want to integrate rather than dedicate your life to building a decent human environment for you to live in. So in America today, after 400 years, as we hear the historians and the rest of them write about and talk about, what have you, you do not truly have a picture of an African American community run and operated by African Americans, which is nothing wrong with that, because how can you have a community where all Jews run into all things as a religious situation, or Irish and Italian and Polish and this one and that one runs things? Even today in this modern time, brothers and sisters come from Africa, Ethiopia, Somalia, the ones in Vietnam and all the Latin countries, everybody, and even from our Caribbean islands, etc., everybody got this set up. But where is this African American community at that you can point to? It doesn't exist. And when big towns were turned over to us through voting, etc., Chicago's, certain Gary, Indiana's, you name it, what have you, that with political thing was turned over to us, then those businesses, industries that was there pulled out because you didn't build your own. So integration was that drive that was put forth, hurt our progress and set us back, and continue to set us back because we're not looking at building our own. We just feel we won't be satisfied with some sickness, psychology, whatever's been done to us, whatever influence is, unless we are sitting next to everybody else but ourselves. But everybody, without making a statement, without what's naming anything, and I ain't gonna make this up, you can just look at America. Everybody just got here yesterday, day before, you know, few years, whatever it is, they established their home. And they ain't working against you, they just, you know, which is natural. I like to be with my own. And I'll go to a football game where everybody's at, you know, I go to, but I like to be able to go home, to a true home, a neighborhood. And that's when we're making that answer that is small enough to say, why can't we, why is it, what's wrong? And why would us doing that, why would others want to come and interrupt us from doing that when you got it like that? And I ain't asking you for nothing. I want to build something, like I said, Inkster, here, when we've done it with a little spot here in Harlem Market, build something that all over the world, people come to the Harlem Market to shop, from every nationality, a tourist spot. Huh? That was a startup. Build something to where, you know, I like to go down to Little Italy and get some of that good Italian food that I got over there in Rome where I was staying in the Pope's home. Pope John Paul II, may God be pleased with him, give him the paradise, while I was staying in his home in Castle Condolfa. When half of my Catholic brothers were priests and what they couldn't get there, they had to touch my hand, what's the name? You know, come on, man. I'd like to have the neighborhood, even like I said, brothers and sisters, African stuff, I'd help them. Say, come on, man, open a restaurant, do something. Why is it that the indigenous African-American people are afraid of doing something, having your own like that? What is your fear? What are you fearing? That the other person is going to say, oh, you prejudiced? No, I ain't. I'm just, you must be prejudiced because you got the Italian, Irish town, Polish town, this town, and I better not walk through your town. We seen that with the man who just was killed in Atlanta, Georgia there, or in Georgia, just walking, running the neighborhood. Still got that attitude. So I can make my own neighborhood and run through it. What's the problem? So this is, conclude what you're giving here, this is a very serious sickness of influence that we have to recognize. Our leaders made a mistake. Again, I ain't got no promotion to say, oh, let's separate and let's go there. No, man, this is a natural thing that you want something of your own. When you become unnatural that you don't want something of your own that's decent, that's credible and etc. What, you lost your human value? So that everybody else can come see your greatness. You say they're promoting these musicians and so forth and so on over great thinkers and achievers and etc. There's some great musicians, great Western established a lot too, but nah, man, we got to rethink this as a whole and help each other. And I don't mind going to the Italian brothers. Listen, man, I'm building X, Y, and Z, what have you, and I see you have that already. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. Are you willing to give me some guidance on it? And my Italian brothers say, oh yeah, man, no problem. Yeah, Pasha, we give you some advice. What do you want here? What do you need? Hey, Joey, get my hand here. Whatever, I'll go and ask him if I will. See him do something, why won't we invent the wheel for him? Go and ask him and see what's happening. I have to tell my Jewish brothers and sisters, listen, I need a little help. Yes, you need help. Yes, just a little bit of help. If you can help me just a little bit, it would help me just so very much. I got some things that we do. Why not? We're human beings. You got something, I hear what's there, and so you can also have the privilege of coming to me and saying, hey, ma'am, Brother Pasha, what do you got there? What you need, man? I need so-and-so. No, I got plenty of it here. What's the name? What can I pay you for? Whatever, what's the fair trade? What you value it for? This is the real human being that's going to be brought back into this thing. We've got to start looking at our own, and it ain't against anyone else, and they shouldn't perceive it that way. And if they do, you need to be able to talk with them. Say, listen, I'm not doing it against you. Don't you want to see the crime going down? Because if it don't, it's going to start spreading your way.
That's right.
So, give me a hand here, if anything, to help me bring this crime down. Because crime can go down in our neighborhood. All these killings and shootings and everything else is easy to bring to a halt because we have done it before under that early leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We did it. We did it. And as the mayor of Adams said the other day on an interview, and somebody called in and asked him a question and tell him about, well, you got a friend who's a criminal and he's got a record and, and you hanging out with him, how does that work? And I gave that salute to Mayor. He said, well, hell, I had a record too. I was a criminal. What are you talking about? And if nobody would give me a chance, the people of New York voted me and said they'd give me a chance that I turned away from that record. You can't hold that against me forever. But see, that's the unjust laws. In Florida, the brothers who had federal records, I think it was, a European brother and an African-American brother, got together and fought and wanted to get it on the books for the people who would vote to say, listen, I'm 10 years away from this. Where you keep holding us from? I did my time, I did my my parole and everything else, and I'm a plus to the society. Why are you telling me I can't vote? Why you give me my right? And the people of Florida, if I understood it right, the majority of them voted to give them back their right. And then a legislative body, governors and stuff included, decided they wasn't going to respect the voice of the people. That happened here in New York City under the former Mayor Bloomberg, who the people voted and said term limits for mayor of such a amount of time, and he turned around and used his money, power, and influence to influence the city council to usurp the vote of the people. And they have never been chastised for it since. So again, I'm fighting to say, can we not have our own? And particularly in this case, now talking to the community that say they belong to the same leadership I belong to, y'all are some big hypocrites, every one of you. Every one of you so-called imams out there, this thing go on the world, let them know. You imams who said you were Imam W. Muhammad, you're the biggest liars on the planet Earth. Now, you don't like it, come see me and challenge me, because I'll prove it. You're all liars and hypocrites. You ain't doing nothing to build anything. You're losing everything that the man gave you from his father all the way through. You're trying to be everybody else but who you are as African Americans, serving our community, etc. You're so busy trying to be shake that you shaky. call you for something out here, you ain't come out there to help us yet with nothing. Because you want to go and all you want to do is talk, have lip service. Nah, they're hypocrites of the worst type. And they were dead, I was dead with these, man. Don't tell me, because I know. Tell me, because I've been working behind great men since I came in this door. That's all I ever prayed for. Give me some great men that I can work behind. And all y'all want to do is walk out here talking stupid. Oh, I know the Arabic, I know the Arabic. You don't know the Arabic neither. But the Arabic means work. It means love for family. It means producing. That means sitting still in a mosque and praying all daggone day. The prophet told us about that. Nah, go to work. And then your brother out here working and have you, and ain't nobody from Detroit. No, the whole time we've been out 70, ain't none of them come to help with nothing. Envy and jealousy. Because we come out there and doing something. None of them. Talking about you with Imam W. Muhammad. He'd get out of his grave and smack you in the back of your head. If he won't, I will. That's what I'm doing. So that's just a little note on the private level, people. You don't worry about that. You know what I mean? We good to go. Inshallah. So can I go now before they come after me?
Yes, we're going to speak about Thinker newspaper.
Oh, the paper. Yeah. Let's think about it. It's the latest paper. As out and what have you. Dealing with the Sirah Conference, the life of the Prophet, and what have you, and then all the other events that we have here. So order your subscription to the Thinker, and we had a little difficult time, but we're back on track now. Even our graded paper, they stopped making the graded paper that we want. And also our annual calendar, the yearly calendar, is also out and what have you. So you can order your calendar and what have you, a great calendar, great pictures of some of the historical things we do in our Claire Muhammad School, summer camp, all the hiking and fishing and boating and everything we do with the children each year and what have you. So, order your calendars. You can contact the masjid to do so. Inshallah. Any final question? Yes.
Just a question you can probably think of, because it's going to probably be a large question, but in practical terms, how best would you define what a community is? We talk a lot about community, in practical terms, how best would you describe it?
Well, again, it's not rocket science. It is a situation to where you are responsible for the governmental bodies, all of them, police, fire, sanitation, all the things that would involve having a community. You're responsible for the maintenance of the tax base. You're responsible for all of the businesses and industry. You're responsible, number one, for the educational system, what type of curriculum is going into the heads of your children that are influencing your children, etc. The entire thing, which is, we can see it all over America, in terms of community and the responsibility from parents and what have you, all of it together. You're responsible for having the graveyard, hospitals, all of it. And like I said, some of the ones I mentioned, like Mount Bayou, Mississippi, back in that time frame, they had their hospital, they had their hotels, they had everything there in terms of the services to community. So the identification of community, in short, I'll let you trust Webster for a minute, Go look up Webster. He'll tell you right away. I ain't asked for nothing strange, that when we cooperate together for our own sake. We're all living there together. Well, let's make sure it's clean and that it's maintained and such. Don't wait for some, you can take responsibility by not waiting for the sanitation people to show up or this one to show up. Start cleaning and sweeping and doing yourself. You maintain it. In terms of that. And then be able to go to the sanitation department and say, listen, we clean this up better than your people is. You need to start paying our young folks and giving them a sense of after school work, summer jobs and etc. Having all of the different programs, academies, etc. that take our children outside of the community to let them see the rural areas. I'll never forget when I left Brooklyn and went to 10 Mile River, which was a Boy Scout camp. It changed my life. Because I ain't never nothing like this exists. I know, but I ain't never been in it. To see the peaceful serene of fishing and hiking and learning all these different things we learned. Summertime in the city, we had youth cadet corps where we, as young men particularly, we put a uniform on. That's a whole other mindset. We put a uniform on, we starch it nice and everything, and we marched, we did bands, we learned musical instruments and etc. We went to rifle ranges, learn how to use the rifles and the guns and things that they put in our mind as you're not really American unless you got a gun. And now you put that out there as a massive situation, but then you want to deny the young children and stuff in the ghetto and in different places to not have it, so they're going to try to get it any way they can because you done made it like I'm not nobody if I don't know how to do this. But you can do it as they did for us and have you trained the respect and responsibility of it in terms of the enjoyment, the hunting, the different things they did. They showed us. It's a different story. So community means you are accountable, and it should be really under the guise of the faithful people who run that community, and then they choose from among themselves the elected people to be in government and etc. So they understand the connection between we put you there and you be held accountable to if you're doing something we don't see is correct, then we got a question about why you're doing it. Again, and it's not, oh no, we want a black discipline. No, I'm not getting this color conscious. I want a human situation for my human family. I like to be with my own. You like to be with your own. What's wrong with that? Under slavery, you try to make sure I couldn't do that. So I had 400 years of missing it. So I want to be with my children, with my wife, from my loins and etc. and have you. Oh, man, you prejudice now. You want to? No. You choose to go outside that you can. But that's a difficult thing for both parties when you go outside of the norm of your community. I want my own school system that I have the total influence, not somebody else is from Texas is writing the curriculum and everything else to say what I'm going to learn, which is against my children's own interests. No, I don't want that. So again, it was a major mistake in history in America here of our people going after integration. Should have went after better laws to respect your independence and get out of your way and stop letting you, don't get in your way to let you build your institutions, etc. Stop sabotaging them, etc. There should be laws that say if any white man sabotages the good work of the black man, lock his white ass up. I used to see I got to do shock therapy now because you got to do color conscious stuff. Lock his ass up right now. You know, and that's just a minor stuff. You don't worry about that. You understand? The much stuff they got here now, boy, good God Almighty, you know. No, you know, so no, lock him up. You can do, as I said, this Mitch McConnell should have been a long time charged with treason. Can you imagine, who can I think of? Any African American, somebody else behaving like he behaved and saying that we ain't going to do nothing for the president. If he wins, we're going to work to make sure he don't get a second term. And anything he give us, even though it's good for the people and good for our party and everything else, we're not going to do it. And they did exactly that. And that's why we're in this conflict we're in right now. Because they allow that to happen. And no one dressed up and pointed at him out and said, hold, man, wait a minute, you setting something in place that's going to be detrimental to America and its existence. And that's where we're at today. Something that's detrimental to American existence, where the talk and the drumbeat a war between Russia and all the rest of those countries, you're talking about the drumbeat right here in America for civil war. Because you're saying it's going to be your way, and we putting you back into chains and what's the name, and that's it. You out of your mind? You better not show me a chain because, man, you going to... You know, you better not come out here, you chain, you better have too much of a chain on your dog, because our life is psychologically wiped out. You don't see me a chain of some sort, you know, come on now. You know, so anyways, y'all make me, I'm supposed to stop. I'm supposed to stop, man. You don't get me in big trouble here. So praise be to Allah. So hopefully, and it's that. Go to Webster. He tell you what community is. That's what we're supposed to have. Sister Pasha? Sister Marsha?
Thank you, sir.
Alhamdulillah. Praise be to God. So Philip, we thank you, and thank you, Sister Pasha, for, you know, your engagement and what have you. Again, there are people, you know, without humor and what have you. Some things you got to make real humorous to serious, but you have to put it that way. We pray God. We pray to God. We thank God. I'm so grateful to God and His awakening and the doorway, and open the doorway to Al-Islam, the religion of peace, the religion of peaceful pursuit that obligates me to pursue peace. We pray to God that in our efforts to explain and answer the question to the best of our abilities, that we probably made errors and mistakes and what have you, we ask you to forgive us. Our intent was to give good and nothing but good. God so willing, that's what we intend. Again, join our educational banquet this Thursday by way of the virtual or by way of contributions and also the auction that is already operating now. We pray, God, that again, forgive us if you were offended by things we said. We didn't say them for offense. We set it for a share of ideas and concepts that we see that will be productive for all of us in humanity. All I'm looking for is the ability to use my strength to save my family and save my community from the torment of the fires of passion. Peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum.
Waalaikum assalam.
You smile, I want you smile. I love you smile, I love you smile. Why don't you smile? We've been thinking about some positive changes. We need some positive changes. Thinking about some positive. Let us beware of false prophet, for they shall come in a sheep clothing, but beneath them are marvelous of wolves. So watch them green snake in a green grass. Why tell them say, some are vampires, some are hooligans, some are kleptomanians, some are idolaters, some are vampires, all are vampires, some are hooligans.